The door swung open, and Liam Carter stood there holding a toolbox, expecting another routine job. Instead, he found himself staring into eyes that looked like they'd forgotten how to hope. Sophie Lane wasn't supposed to be his problem, just another address on a work order. But when she asked him that one question, the one that sliced through every defense he'd built in 7 years of solo parenting, everything changed. What happens when two people who've mastered the art of surviving alone suddenly realize they're both drowning in different ways? If you want to see where this story goes, hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this journey travels. The alarm went off at 5:30, same as every morning. Liam Carter's hand shot out from under the covers, slapping the phone screen into silence before the second beep could start. The bedroom was still dark, that pre-dawn kind of quiet that felt almost sacred if you didn't think too hard about how you'd rather be sleeping. He sat up, rubbed his face with both hands, and listened. Down the hall, nothing stirred. Emma was still asleep. Good. The kid needed her rest. She'd been fighting a cold all week, and yesterday she'd barely touched her dinner. Liam swung his legs out of bed, feet hitting the cold hardwood floor. April in Portland meant the morning still had teeth. He grabbed the hoodie draped over the chair in the corner, pulled it on, and padded quietly toward the bathroom. The face in the mirror looked tired. 32 wasn't supposed to feel this worn down, but 7 years of single parenting had a way of adding weight that didn't show on a scale. Dark circles under his eyes. Stubble he'd deal with later. Hair that needed a cut 2 weeks ago. He splashed water on his face, brushed his teeth, tried to shake off the heaviness that had been sitting on his chest lately. It wasn't depression. He'd felt that before, right after Rachel left, and this wasn't the same. This was more like fatigue, the kind that sleep didn't fix. By 6, he had coffee brewing and was checking his phone for the day's schedule. 3 jobs lined up. First one was at 7:30, some residential call about flickering lights in a kitchen. Should be quick. Second was a panel replacement in a commercial building downtown. That'd eat up most of the afternoon. Third was marked as a new client, just listed as electrical assessment, minor repair. Address in the West Hills, fancy neighborhood. He poured coffee into a thermos, made himself 2 pieces of toast with peanut butter, 8 standing at the counter. The house was small, a 2-bedroom rental in Southeast that cost more than it should, but was close to Emma's school. Liam had learned to move quietly through it, not wanting to wake his daughter before he had to. At 6:40, he knocked softly on Emma's door and pushed it open. She was a lump under the covers, brown curls spilling across the pillow. "Em," he said gently. "Time to get up, kiddo." A groan came from under the blankets. "Come on, school day." "I don't feel good," came the muffled response. Liam walked over, sat on the edge of her bed. "I know, but your fever broke yesterday, remember? You're on the mend." Emma poked her head out, squinting at him. She was 6, small for her age, with her mother's eyes and, unfortunately, her mother's tendency to argue when she didn't want to do something. "My throat still hurts," she said. "I'll make you tea with honey before we leave. Deal?" She considered this, then nodded. "Deal." "That's my girl. Get dressed. I laid out your clothes." By 7:15, they were in his truck, a 12-year-old Ford that ran well enough but looked like it had earned every one of its miles. Emma sat in the back, sipping her tea from a travel mug, backpack at her feet. "Dad?" "Yeah?" "Are you picking me up today, or is it Miss Karen?" Karen was the neighbor, a retired teacher who helped out when Liam's schedule ran long. She charged less than the going rate because she liked Emma and because, as she'd told him once, every kid deserves someone who gives a damn. "I'm picking you up," Liam said. "Should be done by 3. "Okay." A pause. "Can we get ice cream after?" "You just told me your throat hurts." "Ice cream would make it feel better." He caught her eye in the rear-view mirror, saw the little grin she was trying to hide. "We'll see." Drop-off was the usual chaos, kids spilling out of cars, parents shouting reminders about lunches and after-school pickups. Liam walked Emma to the entrance, crouched down to her level. "Be good. Pay attention. If your throat gets worse, tell the nurse." "I will." "Love you, Em." "Love you too, Dad." She ran off to join a group of girls near the playground, and Liam stood there for a second longer than necessary, watching her go. Every single day, he had this moment where he wondered if he was doing enough, if she was happy, if she noticed that other kids had 2 parents and she only had him. Then he shook it off, climbed back in the truck, and headed to the first job. The kitchen lighting issue turned out to be a loose connection in the junction box. 20 minutes, in and out. The homeowner tried to chat him up about the Blazers game, and Liam made polite noises while he worked. He wasn't much for small talk. The panel replacement downtown took longer. Old building, outdated wiring, the kind of job where you had to move carefully or risk setting off a cascade of problems. By the time he finished, it was nearly 3, and he was running behind. He texted Karen, "Running late. Can you grab Emma? I'll pick her up from your place." Karen's reply came fast. "No problem. She can help me bake cookies." Liam felt the familiar mix of gratitude and guilt. He hated relying on people, but there was no other option. You couldn't raise a kid alone without accepting help. The third job was in the West Hills, up winding roads where the houses got bigger and the yards got greener. Liam had worked in this neighborhood before, places where people had money but no idea how their electrical systems functioned. They called guys like him to fix things they could have Googled, but they paid well, so he didn't complain. The address led him to a modern 2-story house with clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows. Tasteful landscaping, a BMW in the driveway. He parked on the street, grabbed his toolbox, and walked up to the front door. He rang the bell, waited. The woman who answered wasn't what he expected. She was young, mid-20s maybe. Dark hair pulled back in a loose ponytail, dressed in jeans and an oversized sweater. No makeup. She looked like she'd just woken up, or maybe hadn't slept at all. There was something in her face, some kind of weariness that felt out of place in a house this pristine. "Liam Carter?" she asked. "That's me." "I'm Sophie, thanks for coming." She stepped aside, gesturing him in. "It's the outlet in the living room. It's not working, and I have no idea why." The inside of the house matched the outside. Clean, modern, expensive. Lots of white and gray, minimalist furniture, art on the walls that looked like it came from a gallery. But there was something off about it. No clutter, no personal touches. It felt more like a showroom than a home. Sophie led him to the living room, pointed to an outlet near the couch. "I plugged in a lamp yesterday and it just didn't work. I tried a different lamp, same thing." Liam set his toolbox down, pulled out his voltage tester. "Could be a tripped breaker. Let me check." She stood a few feet away, arms crossed, watching him work. Most clients wandered off, left him alone. Sophie stayed. He opened the outlet cover, tested the wires. No power. "Yeah, breaker's off. Where's your panel?" "Garage. I'll show you." She walked him through the kitchen, also spotless, also weirdly impersonal, and into the garage. The breaker panel was newer, well labeled. He found the tripped switch, flipped it back on. "That should do it," he said. "Just like that?" "Just like that." She smiled a little, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I feel dumb for calling someone out for something that simple." "Don't." Happens all the time. They walked back to the living room. Liam tested the outlet, confirmed it was working, then started packing up his tools. "What do I owe you?" Sophie asked. "Service calls $75. She nodded, disappeared into another room, came back with cash. Handed it to him, 4 20s. "Keep the change," she said. "You sure?" "Yeah." He pocketed the money, picked up his toolbox. "Thanks. If anything else comes up, you've got my number." He was halfway to the door when she spoke again. "Can I ask you something?" Liam turned. "Sure." Sophie hesitated, like she was trying to figure out how to word it. Then, "Are you happy?" He blinked. "What?" "With your life. Are you happy?" It was such a strange question, so completely out of left field that for a second he didn't know how to respond. This woman, this stranger, was standing in her expensive house asking him something nobody had asked in years. I don't know," he said finally. "I guess I don't think about it much." She nodded slowly, like that made sense. "Yeah, me neither." There was a silence between them, heavy and uncomfortable. Liam felt like he'd stumbled into the middle of something he didn't understand. "Anyway," Sophie said, her voice lighter now, forced. "Thanks again." "No problem." He left, got in his truck, sat there for a minute before starting the engine. That question kept looping in his head. "Are you happy?" He didn't have an answer. By the time Liam picked up Emma from Karen's place, it was almost 5. She came running out with chocolate on her face and a baggie full of cookies. "We made snickerdoodles," she announced. "I can see that." Liam smiled at Karen, who stood in the doorway. "Thanks again." "Any time, hun. She's a delight." In the truck, Emma chattered about her day. Something about a boy named Tyler who ate glue and how her teacher read them a story about a dragon. Liam listened, made the right noises, but part of his mind was still back in that house, standing in that too-clean living room. "Are you happy?" They stopped for groceries, milk, bread, chicken for dinner. Emma wanted ice cream, and he caved, letting her pick a pint of mint chocolate chip. At home, he cooked while she did homework at the kitchen table, her tongue poking out in concentration as she traced letters. After dinner, they watched half a movie before Emma started yawning. Liam carried her to bed. She was getting too big for this, but she didn't complain and tucked her in. "Dad?" "Yeah, kiddo." "Do you ever get lonely?" His chest tightened. "Sometimes." "Why?" "I don't know. I was just thinking." "You're not lonely, are you?" She shook her head. "No. I have you." "Yeah. You've got me." He kissed her forehead, turned on her nightlight, and closed the door most of the way. Back in the living room, Liam dropped onto the couch, exhausted. He pulled out his phone, scrolled through emails without really reading them. His mind drifted back to Sophie, to that question. He thought about his life, the routine, the constant motion, the lack of anything that felt like joy. He wasn't miserable, but he wasn't happy either. He was just going. When had that become enough? 3 days passed. Work continued. More service calls, more repairs, more hours that blurred together. Emma's cold cleared up. Liam fixed a leaking faucet in their bathroom. Life moved forward the way it always did. Then, on Thursday afternoon, his phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello?" "Hi. Is this Liam Carter?" He recognized the voice immediately. Sophie. "Yeah, this is Liam. It's Sophie Lane. You came out earlier this week to fix an outlet?" "I remember. I was wondering if you'd be available for some additional work. I have a few other properties that need regular maintenance, and I liked how you handled things. Professional, quick. I'd pay you a monthly retainer if you're interested." Liam frowned. This wasn't how things usually worked. Most of his clients called when something broke, not to set up ongoing contracts. "What kind of properties?" he asked. "A couple of rental units, nothing major, just someone to check in, make sure everything's functioning, change filters, test smoke detectors, that sort of thing." "I don't usually do maintenance contracts." "I'd make it worth your time." There was something in her voice, not desperation exactly, but something close to it, like she needed this to be a yes. Liam thought about his bank account, about the rent that was always due, about the college fund he'd barely managed to start for Emma. How much are we talking? She named a number. It was more than fair. It was generous. "When would you need me to start?" he asked. "Is next week too soon?" "Next week's fine." "Great. I'll text you the addresses and details." "Sounds good." "Thanks, Liam." She hung up before he could say anything else. He sat there staring at the phone, trying to figure out why this felt like more than just a job offer. The first property was a small duplex in northeast Portland. Liam showed up on Monday morning, let himself in with the key Sophie had left in a lockbox. The place was clean, well kept. He checked the electrical panel, replaced a burned-out bulb in the hallway, tightened a loose outlet cover. The second property was a condo downtown. Same deal, minor fixes, routine checks. Easy money. The third was Sophie's house. He knocked, and she answered almost immediately, like she'd been waiting. "Hey," she said. "Come in." She looked different than last time. Hair down, wearing a simple dress instead of jeans. Still no makeup, still that same tired look in her eyes. "I didn't realize you'd need work done here too," Liam said. "Just a few things. There's a light fixture in the upstairs hallway that's flickering, and I think the dishwasher's making a weird noise." He followed her upstairs, fixed the light, loose bulb, nothing serious. Then back down to the kitchen for the dishwasher. He ran it through a cycle, listened. There was a faint grinding sound. "Probably needs a new pump," he said. "I can order the part and come back to install it." "That'd be great." She hovered while he worked, same as before. Liam tried to ignore it, focus on the job, but it was hard not to notice. "Can I get you anything?" Sophie asked. "Water? Coffee?" "I'm good, thanks." "You sure?" "I just made a fresh pot." He glanced at her, saw something in her expression that made him pause. She didn't want him to leave yet. "Coffee'd be great," he said. She smiled, genuinely this time, and poured him a cup. They stood in the kitchen, not saying much. Outside, rain started to tap against the windows. "Do you live here alone?" Liam asked, then immediately regretted it. Too personal. But Sophie didn't seem to mind. "Yeah, it's just me." "Big house for one person." "It is." She stared into her coffee. "It was a gift. From my parents." "Nice gift." "I guess." There was that tone again, the one that said money didn't fix everything. "What about you?" she asked. "You mentioned a daughter, right? During the initial call?" Liam nodded. "Emma, she's 6. "Just the two of you?" "Yeah, her mom left when she was a baby." "I'm sorry." "It's fine. We're good." Sophie looked at him for a long moment like she was trying to decide whether to believe him. "You seem like a good dad." "I try." "That's more than a lot of people do." He didn't know what to say to that, so he sipped his coffee and let the silence sit. Finally, Sophie set her cup down. "I should let you get back to work." "Right, yeah." He finished the dishwasher assessment, wrote up a quick estimate for the part and labor, and handed it to her. "This works," she said. "Just let me know when you can come back." "Will do." He left, but the whole drive to his next job, he kept thinking about the way she'd looked at him, like she was searching for something. Over the next 2 weeks, Liam found himself at Sophie's house more often than the other properties. There was always something: a stuck window, a running toilet, a ceiling fan that wobbled. Nothing urgent, but she kept calling, and he kept showing up. They started talking more. Small things at first: weather, traffic, the best place to get tacos in Portland. Then deeper things. She told him about growing up with parents who measured love in dollar signs. He told her about the year after Rachel left, when he'd barely held it together. Sophie never pried, but she listened in a way that made him want to keep talking. And slowly, Liam realized he was looking forward to those visits. Not because of the work, but because of her. One afternoon, he was replacing a light switch in her hallway when she appeared with 2 mugs of tea. "Break time," she said. They sat on the stairs, shoulders almost touching. "Can I ask you something?" Sophie said. "Sure." "Why'd you stay after your ex left?" Liam looked down at his mug. "Emma needed me. I couldn't just bail. A lot of people would have." "Yeah, well, I'm not a lot of people." She smiled. "No, you're not." There was a shift in the air between them, something unspoken, but unmistakable. Liam felt it, and he knew she did too. "I should finish up," he said, standing quickly. "Right, of course." But as he worked, he could feel her eyes on him, and he wondered how much longer they could keep pretending this was just about the work. It happened 3 weeks in. Liam had come over late, 8 p.m., after putting Emma to bed at Karen's for the night. Sophie had called about a blown fuse, said it couldn't wait until morning. When he arrived, she was in the living room, a bottle of wine open on the coffee table, 2 glasses poured. "Fuse is fine," she said. "I lied." Liam set his toolbox down. "Sophie, I know, I'm sorry, She stood up, walked over to him. "I needed to see you." "This isn't a good idea. I know that too." But she didn't move away, and neither did he. "I can't stop thinking about you," she said quietly. "And I know that's insane because you're just here to fix things, and I'm just some lonely person in a house that's too big, but—" He kissed her. It wasn't planned. It wasn't smart, but it happened, and the moment it did, everything else fell away. They ended up on the couch, then later in her bedroom, and for a few hours, Liam let himself forget about responsibility and consequences and all the reasons this was a mistake. Afterward, lying in the dark, Sophie's head on his chest, he stared at the ceiling and thought about what he'd just done. "I should go," he said. "I know." But she held on to him a little tighter, and he stayed. The morning came too fast. Liam woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows, Sophie still asleep beside him. He dressed quietly, grabbed his toolbox, and slipped out before she could wake up. In the truck, he gripped the steering wheel and tried to figure out what the hell he was doing. He had a daughter. He had a life that worked, even if it wasn't perfect. He couldn't throw that away for, what, a woman he barely knew? But even as he thought it, he knew it wasn't that simple. Because somewhere in the last few weeks, Sophie had stopped being just a client. She'd become something else, and Liam had no idea what to do about it. He picked Emma up from Karen's at 7:30, offering apologies and an extra $20 that Karen waved away. Emma was groggy, confused about why she'd spent the night away on a school night, and Liam mumbled something about an emergency job that ran late. The lie tasted bitter. In the truck, Emma asked, "Where were you?" "Work stuff, kiddo. Complicated repair." "All night?" "Yeah, all night." She accepted this without further questions, and Liam felt worse for how easy it was to deceive a 6-year-old. They stopped at a drive-thru for breakfast, something he never did, and Emma's excitement over hash browns and orange juice only deepened his guilt. At school drop-off, he hugged her longer than usual. "You okay, Dad?" she asked. "Yeah, just tired." "You should sleep more." "I'll work on that." He watched her run toward the playground, her backpack bouncing, and something in his chest twisted tight. What the hell was he doing? He had one job: keep this kid safe, happy, stable. Last night didn't fit anywhere in that equation. The day's schedule was light: one job in the morning, nothing until late afternoon. Liam drove aimlessly for a while, ended up at a coffee shop he didn't usually frequent, and sat in a corner booth staring at his phone. Sophie hadn't texted. He wasn't sure if that was a relief or a disappointment. He thought about calling her, saying something. What exactly? That last night was a mistake? That it couldn't happen again? But even as he rehearsed the words in his head, they felt hollow. Because the truth was messier than that. The truth was he'd felt something last night that he hadn't felt in 7 years. Not just the physical part, though that had been, well, but the after. Lying there in the dark, Sophie's breathing soft and even against his ribs, and for once not feeling like he was carrying everything alone. That was the dangerous part. His phone buzzed, a text from Sophie. "Can we talk?" Liam stared at the screen. 3 words that could mean anything. He typed and deleted 4 different responses before settling on, "When? Today? I know you're probably busy, but if you have time." He checked his watch. The morning job wouldn't take long. He could swing by after. "Noon work?" "Yes." "Thank you." He pocketed the phone and finished his coffee, trying not to think about how fast his heart was beating. The morning job was a panel upgrade in a house that smelled like wet dog. The homeowner talked non-stop about his boat while Liam worked, and Liam made non-committal sounds at appropriate intervals. By 11:30 he was done and heading toward the West Hills. Sophie's BMW was in the driveway when he arrived. He parked behind it, grabbed nothing from the truck, no toolbox, no excuse for being here, and walked to the front door. She answered before he could knock. "Hi," she said. "Hi." She stepped aside and he came in. The house looked the same as always, immaculate, sterile. Sophie looked different, though. Older, somehow. Tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. They stood in the entryway, neither of them moving further into the house. "I'm sorry," Sophie said. "For last night. For putting you in that position. You didn't put me anywhere I didn't choose to be." "Still, it was selfish." Liam rubbed the back of his neck. "Look, we're both adults. What happened? It happened. But it can't happen again." "I know. I've got Emma to think about, and you've got your life. This doesn't make sense for either of us." Sophie nodded, but her eyes were shiny. "You're right. Of course you're right. So we're good? We can just go back to how things were?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Are we? Good at going back, I mean." He didn't answer because he didn't have one. Sophie wrapped her arms around herself. "I don't want you to stop coming around, for the work, I mean. I know that's probably asking too much, but I can still do the work," Liam said. "If that's what you want." "It is." "Okay, then." They looked at each other and the silence stretched out, heavy with everything they weren't saying. Finally, Liam cleared his throat. "I should go. Got another job this afternoon." "Right. Of course." He turned to leave, hand on the doorknob, when Sophie spoke again. "Liam?" "Yeah?" "For what it's worth, I meant what I said, about not being able to stop thinking about you." He closed his eyes briefly, then opened them. "That doesn't make this easier." "I know." He left without looking back. The next 2 weeks were an exercise in professional distance. Liam showed up at Sophie's house for scheduled maintenance, fixing a leaky faucet, replacing the dishwasher pump, installing a new thermostat. They were polite, courteous. Sophie offered coffee and he accepted, and they made small talk about nothing important. But underneath it all, there was a current running between them. Every time their hands brushed passing a tool, every time he caught her watching him work, every time she laughed at something he said, and the sound lingered a little too long. It was torture, and Liam knew she felt it too. At home, things continued as normal. Emma lost a tooth and was ecstatic about the tooth fairy's $5 payout. Liam took her to the park on Saturday, pushed her on the swings until his arms ached. They had dinner at Karen's one night, pot roast and mashed potatoes, and Emma chatted happily about a science project involving volcanoes. "You're quiet," Karen said to Liam while Emma was in the bathroom. "Just tired." "You work too hard. Bills don't pay themselves." Karen gave him a look that said she didn't entirely believe him, but she let it drop. That night, after Emma was asleep, Liam sat on the couch with a beer he didn't really want and thought about the mess he'd made. He'd crossed a line with Sophie, and even though they'd agreed to walk it back, the line was still there. You couldn't uncross something like that. His phone buzzed. Another text from Sophie. "I can't do this." His stomach dropped. "Can't do what?" "Pretend. Every time you're here, I have to pretend I don't feel what I feel. And I'm not good at it." Liam stared at the screen, his jaw tight. He should tell her they needed to end the work arrangement, cut ties completely. It was the smart thing, the safe thing. Instead, he typed, "What do you want me to say?" The 3 typing dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "I don't know. Maybe that I'm not crazy, that you feel it too." He set the phone down, scrubbed his hands over his face. This was spiraling. He needed to stop it before it went any further. But when he picked the phone back up, what he wrote was, "You're not crazy." Her response came immediately. "Can I see you?" "Not for work, just see you. Sophie." I know all the reasons this is a bad idea, but I'm asking anyway." Liam looked at the clock. 9:15. Emma was asleep. Karen had said she'd be up late watching some British baking show if he ever needed anything. He shouldn't. Every rational part of his brain screamed that he shouldn't. "Give me an hour." Mind. Karen didn't ask questions when he showed up at her door, just nodded when he said he had to run out for a bit and needed someone to listen for Emma. "You're not in trouble, are you?" she asked. "No, just something I need to take care of." "Mm-hmm." She didn't sound convinced, but she waved him off. "Go, I'll check on her in 20 minutes. The drive to Sophie's felt longer than it was. Liam's hands were tight on the wheel, and he kept running through what he'd say when he got there. Some version of "we can't keep doing this." Some speech about boundaries and responsibility. But when Sophie opened the door, all those rehearsed words evaporated. She looked wrecked. Hair messy, eyes red-rimmed like she'd been crying. She was wearing sweatpants and an old t-shirt, and somehow that made it worse. Seeing her stripped of the polished exterior, just raw and human. "Come in," she said quietly. He followed her to the living room. No wine this time, no attempt at atmosphere. Just 2 people standing in a too big house, trying to figure out what the hell they were doing. "I'm sorry," Sophie said. "I shouldn't have asked you to come. I couldn't stand it anymore. All the pretending." "What do you want from me?" Liam asked, and it came out harsher than he meant. "Because I can't give you easy. I can't give you simple." "I don't want easy." "Then what?" She looked at him, and her voice cracked. "I just want to not feel alone." That stopped him, because he understood that, better than she probably realized. "I'm alone all the time," Sophie continued, "in this house, in my life. My parents are in Europe half the year. My friends, I don't even know if I have real friends. Just people who show up to things because it looks good. And then you walked in here and you were just real. You didn't want anything from me except to do your job and leave. And that was the first honest interaction I'd had in months." Liam sank onto the couch, suddenly exhausted. "You don't know me, Sophie." "I know enough. You know what I let you see." She sat down beside him, not touching but close. "Then show me more." He laughed bitterly. You don't want to see more, trust me. Try me. So he did. He told her about the year after Rachel left, when he'd seriously considered giving Emma to his sister because he didn't think he could do it. Told her about the nights when Emma was a baby, screaming for hours, and he'd put her in the crib and walked outside just to escape the sound. Told her about the constant fear that he was screwing up his kid, that one day she'd grow up and realize her dad had been faking competence the whole time. Sophie listened without interrupting, and when he finished, she said, "You stayed, though. You didn't give up. That doesn't make me a hero. It makes you someone who fights for what matters." "And what about you?" Liam asked, turning to face her. "You're sitting in a house your parents bought you, complaining about being lonely. You could change that any time you want." He expected her to get defensive, maybe angry. Instead, she nodded. "You're right. I could. But it's easier to stay stuck than to risk making things worse." "That's bullshit." "Is it?" She met his eyes. "You're doing the same thing. Staying in your routine, your safe little bubble with Emma, because change is terrifying. That's different. I have responsibilities." "So do I." "Like what?" Sophie gestured around the room. "All of this. My parents expect me to maintain a certain life, be a certain person, and I've gone along with it because it was easier than fighting. That's still a choice." "So is staying stuck in a job you hate because it's safe?" Liam frowned. "I don't hate my job. But you don't love it either, do you?" He wanted to argue, but he couldn't, because she was right. He'd been treading water for 7 years, and he'd convinced himself that was enough. They sat in silence for a while, both of them processing. Finally, Sophie spoke. "I don't know what this is between us, but I know I don't want it to end." "It has to," Liam said, but there was no conviction in his voice. "Why?" "Because I can't give you what you need. I've got a daughter who comes first, always. I can't do dinners out or weekends away or any of the normal relationship stuff. And you deserve someone who can." "What if I don't care about normal?" "You say that now?" "I mean it." Liam looked at her, really looked, and saw that she did. It scared him how much he wanted to believe her. "This is a terrible idea," he said. "Probably. We barely know each other." "Then we'll learn." "I don't have time for this." "You're here, aren't you?" He was, and that said more than any protest he could make. Sophie reached over, took his hand. "I'm not asking for forever. I'm asking for a chance." Liam thought about Emma, asleep at Karen's, about the life he'd built that worked well enough, about all the reasons this was reckless and stupid. Then he thought about how it felt to be in this room with Sophie, talking about real things instead of surface bullshit, how it felt to be seen. "One step at a time," he said finally. "That's all I can do." Sophie smiled, and it was the first real smile he'd seen from her in weeks. One step at a time. They didn't sleep together that night. Liam left around 11, drove back to Karen's to pick up Emma. The older woman was on the couch, her show paused, and she gave him a knowing look when he came in. "Everything sorted?" she asked. "Getting there." "Good. She's been asleep the whole time, didn't even stir." "Thanks, Karen. I owe you." "You don't owe me anything, hun, but you look lighter than when you left. So whatever you sorted, I'm glad." Liam carried Emma to the truck, buckled her in. She didn't wake up, just curled against the seat with her thumb in her mouth, a habit she was supposed to have broken, but still did when she was really tired. At home, he tucked her into bed, kissed her forehead, and stood there for a minute watching her sleep. His kid, the one constant in his life that made sense. "I'm trying to do right by you," he whispered. "I hope you know that." She didn't answer, of course, just kept sleeping, small and perfect and completely unaware of the chaos in her father's head. Liam went to his own room, lay on top of the covers, and stared at the ceiling. His phone buzzed. "Sophie. Thank you for coming over." Liam. "Thank you for being honest." Sophie. "Can I see you again? Soon?" He should say no. Should pump the brakes, slow this down. Liam. "Thursday? After I pick up Emma, maybe we could get dinner, all three of us." The suggestion surprised even him, but if this was going to be anything, Sophie needed to meet Emma, see the reality of his life. Sophie. "I'd like that." Liam. "Fair warning. She's 6. Dinner with a 6-year-old is chaos." Sophie. "I'll take my chances." He set the phone aside, rolled onto his side, and for the first time in weeks, fell asleep without the weight pressing on his chest. Thursday came faster than expected. Liam spent the week working, doing the dad thing, and trying not to overthink what dinner with Sophie meant. He told Emma they were meeting a friend for pizza, and she'd perked up immediately. "What kind of friend?" she asked. "Just someone I know from work." "A girl?" "Yeah." Emma grinned. "Is she your girlfriend?" "No, just a friend." Uh-huh. The skepticism in a 6-year-old's voice was something to behold. They met at a casual pizza place in Southeast, red vinyl booths, a jukebox in the corner, the smell of garlic and tomato sauce. Sophie was already there when they arrived, sitting in a booth near the window. She stood when she saw them, and Liam noticed she looked nervous. Good. He was nervous too. "Sophie, this is Emma. This is Sophie." Emma stuck out her hand very seriously. "Nice to meet you." Sophie shook it, matching Emma's solemnity. "Nice to meet you too." They slid into the booth. Emma next to Liam, Sophie across from them. A waitress came over, took their drink orders. Emma wanted root beer, and Sophie told her that was an excellent choice, which earned a smile. "So," Sophie said, "your dad tells me you're in first grade." "Yup, Mrs. Henderson's class." "Do you like it?" "Mostly, except for math. Math is boring." "I always thought so too," Sophie said conspiratorially. Emma's eyes widened. "Really? Really, I was much better at reading." "Me too." And just like that, they were off. Emma chattered about her favorite books, about the chapter series she was reading with Liam before bed, about how she wanted to be a veterinarian when she grew up because animals were better than people. Sophie listened like Emma was the most interesting person in the world, asking follow-up questions, laughing at the right moments. Liam watched the two of them and felt something shift in his chest. When the pizza came, Emma demonstrated her technique for eating it, folded in half, start at the tip, and insisted Sophie try it her way. Sophie did, declared it superior to her usual method, and Emma beamed. "Dad doesn't fold his," Emma said. "He's wrong." "I heard that," Liam said. "It's true." Sophie caught his eye across the table, and the look she gave him was soft, warm. Like this, sitting in a pizza place with a 6-year-old dictating the proper way to eat was exactly where she wanted to be. After dinner, Emma announced she needed to use the bathroom. Liam started to get up, but she waved him off. "I can go by myself. I'm not a baby." "I know you're not. Just hurry up." She skipped off toward the back of the restaurant, leaving Liam and Sophie alone. "She's amazing," Sophie said. "She's something all right." "You've done a good job with her." Liam shrugged. "I'm just trying not to screw up too badly." "You're not screwing up." He wanted to believe that. Wanted to believe that bringing Sophie into their lives wasn't another way of complicating things for Emma. "This is weird for you, right?" he asked. "The kid thing?" Sophie considered. "It's different, but not bad different." "You don't have to say that. I'm not just saying it." She leaned forward. "Liam, I know this isn't what you expected, and I know I come with my own baggage, but I meant what I said. I want to try. Even with all the complications? Especially with them." Emma came bounding back, slid into the booth. "Can we get ice cream?" Liam looked at Sophie. "You up for ice cream?" "Always." They ended up at a place 2 blocks away, Emma ordering a cone with sprinkles that was way too big for her. They walked along the sidewalk, Emma between them, and when she reached up to take Sophie's hand, Liam saw Sophie's surprise, then her smile. It wasn't perfect. Emma dripped ice cream on her shirt. Sophie admitted she had no idea how to talk to kids and was mostly winging it. Liam kept worrying that he was moving too fast, pulling Sophie into something she hadn't signed up for. But it was real. Messy and uncertain and real. Later, after Emma was in bed, Liam texted Sophie. "Liam, she liked you." Sophie, "I liked her too. A lot." Liam, "Thanks for tonight." Sophie, "Thank you for letting me in." He set the phone down, stared at the ceiling, and wondered if maybe, just maybe, he was allowed to have this. The following week settled into a rhythm that felt both natural and surreal. Sophie started showing up at places. The park where Liam took Emma on Saturday mornings, the coffee shop near Emma's school where he sometimes grabbed breakfast. She never imposed, just appeared and fit herself into the margins of their lives like she'd been there all along. Emma accepted her presence without question, the way kids do when something simply makes sense to them. She'd run up to Sophie on the playground, drag her over to the swings, demand that she watch some feat of monkey bar acrobatics. Sophie would applaud and cheer, and Emma would glow. Liam watched these interactions with a mix of wonder and terror. Wonder because Sophie seemed genuinely happy in a way he hadn't seen before. Terror because he knew how fragile this all was, how easily it could shatter. On Tuesday evening, Sophie came over to their place for the first time. Liam had been hesitant about it. The rental was small, cramped, nothing like the pristine house she lived in. But Sophie had asked, and he'd run out of reasonable excuses. She arrived at 6 with a bag of groceries. "I thought I'd make dinner," she said. "If that's okay." Emma's eyes went wide. "You cook?" "I'm learning," Sophie admitted. "Fair warning, it might be terrible." It wasn't terrible. It was actually pretty good. Pasta with homemade sauce, garlic bread, a salad that Emma picked at but mostly ignored. They ate at the small kitchen table, plates touching because there wasn't much room, and it felt oddly domestic, like a family. After dinner, Emma insisted on showing Sophie her room. Liam listened from the hallway as Emma gave a full tour. "Here's my stuffed animals. This is the one Dad won me at the fair. This poster is from my favorite movie. I'm not allowed to have more than 3 books in bed, but sometimes I sneak 4. Sophie made appropriately impressed noises, asked questions, sat on the floor while Emma explained the complex social hierarchy of her stuffed animal collection. When Emma finally wound down, Sophie came out to find Liam doing dishes. "She's got a lot of personality," Sophie said. "That's a polite way of saying she never shuts up." "I like it. My house is too quiet." Liam handed her a dish towel. "You don't have to help." "I want to." They worked in silence for a bit, falling into an easy rhythm. Wash, dry, put away. "Can I ask you something?" Sophie said eventually. "Sure." "What happened with Emma's mom? You don't have to tell me if you don't want to. I'm just curious." Liam had known this question would come eventually. He rinsed a plate, chose his words carefully. "Rachel was 23 when she got pregnant. I was 25. We'd been together maybe 8 months. It wasn't planned." "Did you want to keep the baby?" "I didn't know what I wanted. I was terrified. But Rachel seemed sure, so I went along with it. We moved in together, tried to make it work." He paused, remembering those months. The cramped apartment, Rachel's mood swings, his own growing panic about becoming a father. Emma was born in January. Tiny, healthy, perfect. And for about 3 months we tried. But Rachel was miserable. She'd cry all the time, say she'd made a mistake, that she wasn't cut out for this. I thought it was just postpartum stuff, that it'd pass. But it didn't. One morning I woke up and she was gone. Left a note saying she couldn't do it anymore. That she loved Emma, but not enough. That I'd be better at this than her anyway. Sophie stopped drying, turned to look at him. "That's awful." It was honest, at least. She wasn't wrong. She would have been a terrible mother. Some people just aren't wired for it. Still, walking away from your own kid, yeah. Liam set down the sponge, dried his hands. I was angry for a long time, at her, at myself, at the whole situation, but then I realized anger wasn't helping Emma, so I just focused on being her dad. Everything else fell away. "Do you ever hear from Rachel? She sends money sometimes, birthday cards. But she's never asked to see Emma, never wanted custody or visitation. She signed away her rights when Emma was 2. Sophie leaned against the counter. "Does Emma ask about her?" "Sometimes. I tell her the truth, that her mom wasn't ready to be a parent, but that doesn't mean she's not loved. I don't know if that's the right thing to say." "It sounds right to me." They finished the dishes. In the living room, Emma was sprawled on the couch watching some animated show about talking animals. Sophie sat beside her, and Emma immediately curled into her side like it was the most natural thing in the world. Liam stood in the doorway watching them and felt something crack open in his chest. He'd spent so long building walls, keeping people at a distance, protecting Emma from anyone who might leave. But here was Sophie, somehow past all those defenses, and Emma didn't even seem to notice how remarkable that was. Later, after Emma was in bed and Sophie was getting ready to leave, Liam walked her to her car. "Thanks for tonight," he said. "I should be thanking you. This was nice, really nice." Even the cramped apartment and the kid who talks nonstop? Especially those things. She kissed him, soft and brief, and climbed into her car. Liam watched her drive away, then went back inside to a house that felt simultaneously too small and too empty. The cracks started showing 2 weeks later. It began small. Sophie mentioned having lunch with her mother, and when Liam asked how it went, she'd gone quiet. "Fine," she said. "The usual." Which is? "My mother asking when I'm going to do something useful with my life, reminding me that the house they bought is an investment, not a lifestyle, suggesting I go back to school or get a job or at least volunteer somewhere respectable." "What'd you say?" "That I'd think about it." Liam frowned. "Do you want to do any of those things?" "I don't know what I want. That's the problem." They were at a coffee shop, Emma at school, one of the rare weekday moments they could grab alone. Sophie stirred her latte absently, not drinking it. "My whole life, people have told me what to do," she said. "Go to this school, major in this, date these kinds of people, live this way, and I just did it because it was easier than fighting." "So stop. It's not that simple. Why not?" Sophie looked at him, and there was frustration in her eyes. "Because you don't understand what it's like. The expectations. The pressure." "You're right, I don't. I've spent 7 years just trying to keep my head above water, but that doesn't mean I can't see when someone's drowning in a different way." "I'm not drowning." "Aren't you?" She stood abruptly. "I need to go." "Sophie, I'll call you later." She left, and Liam sat there feeling like he'd stepped on a landmine without seeing it. That night, she didn't call or text. Radio silence. By the next afternoon, Liam was debating whether to reach out when his phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Mr. Carter? This is Patricia Lane, Sophie's mother." Liam's grip on the phone tightened. "How did you get this number?" "That's not important. What's important is that we need to talk about your relationship with my daughter." "I don't think that's any of your business." "Sophie is very much my business, and I've learned that she's been spending time with you and your child. Is that correct?" "Yeah. So?" Patricia's voice was ice. "So I'd like to know what your intentions are." Liam almost laughed. "My intentions? This isn't the 1800s. Don't be flippant. Sophie is vulnerable right now. She's been through a difficult period, and she's susceptible to distractions." "I'm not a distraction." "Aren't you? A working-class single father with a young daughter? You don't think there's an element of novelty there, something she's exploring because it's different from her usual life?" The words hit harder than Liam wanted to admit because they echoed his own fears, that Sophie was slumming, that this was temporary for her. "Look," he said, keeping his voice level, "whatever you think is happening, Sophie's an adult. She can make her own choices. Can she? Or is she just running from her responsibilities again?" "Again?" Patricia paused, and Liam could hear her recalculating. "I've said enough. Just understand that Sophie has a tendency to self-sabotage, to chase things that feel good in the moment without thinking about long-term consequences. I'd hate to see you and your daughter caught in that pattern. Don't use my daughter to manipulate me." "I'm not manipulating anyone, I'm being honest. Sophie will lose interest, she always does. And when she does, you'll be left picking up the pieces." She hung up before he could respond. Liam stared at his phone, anger and doubt churning in his gut. He wanted to dismiss Patricia's words as the manipulations of a controlling parent, but part of him wondered if she was right. He texted Sophie, "We need to talk." An hour passed, then 2. Finally, a response. "I know. Can you come over tonight?" Karen agreed to watch Emma. No questions asked, though she gave Liam a look that said she had plenty. When he arrived at Sophie's, she answered the door with red-rimmed eyes. "My mother called you," she said flatly. "Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't give her your number. She must have gone through my phone." "It's fine." "It's not fine. She had no right." They moved to the living room, neither of them sitting. "What did she say?" Sophie asked. "That I'm a distraction. That you have a pattern of self-sabotage. That you'll lose interest and bail." Sophie's face crumpled. "And you believe her?" "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to. It's written all over your face." Liam ran a hand through his hair. "Look, I need to know this is real for you, because if it's not, if this is just some phase or rebellion or whatever, I need to know now, before Emma gets more attached." It's real for me. Is it? Because your mom said you've done this before. Latched onto something outside your normal life and then bailed when it got hard. Sophie's voice rose. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Then tell me she's wrong. Tell me this isn't about you trying to escape your life. Of course it's about escaping my life. My life sucks. I have everything and nothing at the same time, and I'm so tired of pretending it's enough. Yes, I latched onto you. Yes, it's different from anything I've known, but that doesn't make it less real. Doesn't make it more real either. Sophie stared at him, hurt flashing across her face. You don't trust me. I don't know you well enough to trust you, not with Emma, not with this. Then what are we doing here? I don't know. The words hung between them, harsh and honest. Sophie sank onto the couch, her head in her hands. My mother's right about one thing. I do run. When things get hard, when people expect too much, I shut down and disappear. I've done it my whole life. Liam sat beside her, not touching. Why? Because it's safer than failing. If I don't try, I can't mess up. That's a hell of a way to live. I know. She looked at him, tears streaming down her face. But I don't want to run from this. From you. I know I don't have a great track record, and I know you have every reason not to believe me, but I'm asking you to anyway. Liam wanted to. Every part of him wanted to take her at her word, pull her close, tell her it would all work out. But he thought about Emma, about the stability he'd fought to give her, about what would happen if he let Sophie all the way in and she left. I need time, he said finally, to think. Sophie nodded, wiping her eyes. Okay. He stood to leave, and she didn't try to stop him. In the truck, Liam sat in the dark for a long time before starting the engine. Patricia's words kept circling. Sophie's tears. His own confusion. He didn't know what the right answer was. Didn't know if there was one. The next few days were strange. Sophie texted sporadically, nothing heavy, just checking in. Liam responded but kept it surface level. He needed space to think, and she seemed to understand that. Emma noticed the absence. Is Sophie coming over this weekend? She asked on Thursday night. I don't know, kiddo. Why not? We're just figuring some things out. Emma frowned. Did you have a fight? Sort of. So you should say sorry. That's what you tell me to do when I fight with my friends. It's more complicated than that. Grown-ups always say that. She wasn't wrong. On Saturday, Liam took Emma to the park, trying to give her a normal day. She played on the swings, made friends with another kid, came running back with grass stains on her knees and a huge grin. Dad, can we get lunch at that place Sophie took us, with the good fries? Sure. At the restaurant, Emma chattered about school, about the book they were reading together, about how her friend Mia had a loose tooth. Normal kid stuff. But Liam's mind kept drifting. He thought about Sophie in that too-big house, alone, about the way she'd looked with Emma, genuinely happy, about the fear in her eyes when he'd asked if this was real. His phone buzzed, a text from Sophie. I know you're thinking I'm not trying to rush you, but I want you to know something. This, you and Emma, it's the first thing in my life that's felt like mine, not something my parents arranged or approved of. Mine. And I know I'm a mess and I don't have a great track record, but I'm willing to fight for it. If you'll let me. Liam read it twice, then pocketed his phone. Dad? Emma was watching him. Are you okay? Yeah, kiddo, I'm okay. You look sad. Just thinking. About Sophie. He nodded. Emma took a fry, dragged it through ketchup. I like her. She's nice, and she laughs at my jokes even when they're not funny. That is pretty nice. Are you going to stop being friends with her? I don't know. I think you should give her another chance. Everyone deserves another chance. That's what you always tell me. Out of the mouths of 6-year-olds. That night, after Emma was asleep, Liam called Sophie. She answered on the first ring. Hi. Hi, can we talk? In person? Now? If you're up for it, I can come to you. Okay. 20 minutes later, he was at her door again. She let him in, and they stood in that same entryway where so much had already happened. I read your text, Liam said. And I think we need to be honest about what this is. Really honest. Sophie nodded. Okay. I'm scared, Liam admitted. Scared of letting someone in and having them leave. Scared of what it'll do to Emma if this doesn't work. Scared that your mom's right, and you'll wake up one day and realize this isn't what you want. I'm scared too, Sophie said quietly. Scared that I'll mess this up like I've messed up everything else. Scared that I'm not strong enough to fight for this when it gets hard. Scared that you'll look at me one day and see what everyone else sees. Someone who has everything handed to her and still can't get it right. They looked at each other, two broken people trying to figure out if their pieces fit. What if we're both right, Liam said. What if this is hard and messy and we both screw up? Then we screw up together. That's not very reassuring. It's honest. He laughed, despite everything. Yeah, it is. Sophie stepped closer. I can't promise I won't run when things get hard, but I can promise I'll try not to. I can promise I'll show up, even when it's uncomfortable. I can promise that this, whatever this is, matters to me more than anything has in a long time. I can't promise it'll be easy to be with me, Liam said. I've got baggage and a kid and a life that doesn't leave much room for spontaneity, but I can promise I'll be honest with you about what I need, what I'm afraid of, all of it. Then let's start there, with honesty. Okay? Okay. They stood there, the space between them charged with possibility and fear in equal measure. Finally, Sophie spoke. So what now? Liam considered. Now we try. For real this time. No more pretending it's casual or temporary. We try, and we see what happens. Even though it might not work? Especially because it might not work. Sophie smiled, and it was tentative but real. I can do that. Me too. She reached for his hand, and he took it. They didn't kiss, didn't fall into bed. They just stood there, holding on, and it felt like enough. For now, it was enough. The commitment they'd made to try, to be honest, to show up, sounded simple in theory. In practice, it meant navigating territory neither of them had mapped before. The first real test came 2 weeks later, on a Thursday afternoon when Liam got a call from Emma's school. She'd been in a fight on the playground, not physical, but she'd said something harsh to another girl and made her cry. The teacher wanted him to come in. Liam left a job half finished, drove to the school with his stomach in knots. Emma was sitting outside the principal's office, arms crossed, face set in that stubborn expression she got when she knew she was in trouble but didn't want to admit it. What happened? He asked, crouching down to her level. Mia said Sophie wasn't my real mom, and that she was just pretending to like me because she felt sorry for you. Liam's jaw tightened. And what did you say? Emma's voice got small. I said at least Sophie shows up, which is more than Mia's dad does since her parents got divorced. The teacher, Ms. Henderson, appeared in the doorway. Mr. Carter, can we talk? The conversation was brief but pointed. Emma had crossed a line. She needed to apologize. Liam agreed, felt the weight of parenting pressing down on him, the constant fear that he was screwing this up, that Emma was acting out because of his choices. In the truck afterward, Emma was quiet. You know what you said was wrong, Liam said finally. I know. Mia's home situation isn't her fault. You hurt her because you were hurt. She started it. That doesn't make what you did okay. Emma stared out the window, tears sliding down her cheeks. Is Sophie my real mom or not? Liam pulled over, put the truck in park. Em, look at me. She turned, face blotchy and miserable. Sophie's not the woman who gave birth to you. That's a fact. But she shows up every day, helps with homework, makes you laugh, cares about what happens to you. That's real. It doesn't matter what anyone else calls it. But what if she leaves, like my birth mom did? There it was. The fear Emma had been carrying, finally spoken out loud. I can't promise she won't, Liam said, and it hurt to admit. People make their own choices, but Sophie's chosen to be here. Every single day she chooses us, and that counts for something. Emma wiped her nose on her sleeve. Mia made me feel stupid for believing it. You're not stupid. You're brave. It takes guts to let someone in after you've been left before. Did it take guts for you too, to let Sophie in? Terrified me, Liam admitted. Still does sometimes. But you did it anyway. Yeah, because some things are worth being scared for. Emma nodded slowly, processing. Then, I still have to apologize to Mia, don't I? Yep. That's gonna suck. Probably, but you'll do it anyway because that's what good people do when they mess up. That evening, Liam texted Sophie about what happened. She called immediately. "Is Emma okay?" she asked. "She's okay. Shaken up, but okay." "What did the other girl say about me?" Liam hesitated. "That you're not her real mom. That you're just pretending." Sophie was quiet for a long moment. "And what does Emma think?" "She's scared you're going to leave." "I'm not going anywhere." "I told her that, but she's 6. She needs more than words." "Then I'll show her, however long it takes." After they hung up, Liam sat on the couch feeling the familiar weight of single parenthood, the isolation of making every decision alone, carrying every fear. Except he wasn't alone anymore. Sophie was in this with him, and that both relieved and terrified him. Later that night, there was a knock at the door. Sophie stood there with a bag from the bookstore. "I know you didn't ask me to come," she said, "but I thought Emma might want this." She pulled out a book, some illustrated story about blended families and what makes someone family. Not overly sentimental, just honest. "I thought maybe we could read it together," Sophie said. "The 3 of us." Liam let her in, and they found Emma in her room, pretending to do homework, but mostly just staring at her notebook. "Hey, kiddo," Sophie said. "Your dad told me what happened today." Emma's face crumpled. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you—" "You didn't do anything to me," Sophie said gently, sitting on the bed. "You were defending yourself. That's not something to apologize for." "But I was mean to Mia." "Yeah, you were, and you'll make that right tomorrow. But right now, I want to talk about what she said to you. About me." Emma looked at her hands. "She said you're not my real mom." "She's right. I'm not. Your real mom is out there somewhere living her life, and I can't replace her." Emma's face fell, and Liam started to intervene, but Sophie held up a hand. "But," Sophie continued, "I can be something else. I can be the person who helps you with math homework, even though I'm terrible at it. Who makes you breakfast on Saturdays and lets you put way too much syrup on your pancakes. Who shows up to your soccer games and cheers too loud. I can be the person who chooses to be here every day because I love you and your dad. Not because I have to, because I want to." "Like a bonus mom?" Emma asked quietly. "Yeah, exactly like that." "And you won't leave." Sophie took Emma's hand. "I can't promise nothing bad will ever happen. Life doesn't work that way. But I can promise I'm not looking for the exit. I'm here because this is where I want to be." Emma studied her face, looking for something. Whatever she found must have satisfied her, because she nodded and then launched herself into Sophie's arms. "Okay," she said, muffled against Sophie's shoulder. "Okay." Later, after they'd read the book together and Emma had fallen asleep, Sophie and Liam stood in the hallway outside her room. "Thank you," Liam said, "for that, for showing up." "That's what you do when you love someone," Sophie said. "You show up even when it's hard." She kissed him goodnight and left, and Liam stood there thinking about how much had changed. How Sophie had gone from a stranger in a too-big house to someone his daughter trusted with her deepest fears. How somewhere along the way, she'd become essential. The next challenge came from a different direction entirely. Liam's sister, Jennifer, called on a Sunday morning. They hadn't spoken in months. She lived in Seattle with her husband and 2 kids, busy with her own life, but now she was coming to Portland for a conference and wanted to see Emma. "And I'd like to meet this woman you've been seeing," Jennifer added. "Emma mentioned her when we FaceTimed last week. Her name's Sophie." "I know. Emma talked about her for 15 minutes straight. Seems like she's pretty involved." "She is." "And you're serious about this?" Liam looked over at Emma, who was sprawled on the living room floor drawing. "Yeah, I am." "Good. I'm happy for you, Liam. Really. You deserve someone." They made plans for lunch the following Saturday. After Liam hung up, he felt a knot of anxiety forming. Jennifer was protective, always had been. She'd been there through the worst of it after Rachel left, had offered to take Emma multiple times when Liam was drowning. She'd seen him at his lowest. He wasn't sure what she'd make of Sophie. When he told Sophie about the lunch, she went pale. "Your sister, the one who helped you through everything. That's the one, and she's going to judge whether I'm good enough for you and Emma. She's going to meet you. That's different." "Is it?" Sophie was pacing now, that old anxiety creeping back in. "What if she hates me? What if she thinks I'm some spoiled rich girl playing house?" "Then she'd be wrong. But what if—" "Hey." Liam caught her hand, pulled her close. Jennifer's protective, but she's fair. Just be yourself. That's all she needs to see. What if myself isn't enough? It's enough for me. It's enough for Emma. It'll be enough for her. Sophie didn't look convinced, but she nodded. The days leading up to the lunch were tense. Sophie changed outfits 4 times Saturday morning, kept asking Liam if she looked too formal or too casual or too something. Emma found the whole thing hilarious. "Sophie, you look pretty in everything," she declared. "Just wear jeans." "Listen to the 6-year-old, Liam said. "She's got good instincts." They met Jennifer at a casual restaurant in Selwood. She was already there when they arrived. Tall, angular, with the same dark hair as Liam and a shrewd expression that missed nothing. Emma ran to her immediately. "Aunt Jen!" "Hey, Squirt!" Jennifer scooped her up, then set her down and turned to Sophie. "You must be Sophie." "I am. It's nice to meet you." They shook hands, and Liam watched his sister's face for clues. She was giving nothing away. Over lunch, Jennifer asked questions. Friendly enough on the surface, but Liam could hear the assessment underneath. Where was Sophie from? What did she do? How had they met? Sophie answered honestly. Didn't try to oversell herself. When Jennifer asked what she did for work, Sophie admitted she was taking community college classes and volunteering, that she was still figuring out what she wanted to do. That must be nice, Jennifer said, having the freedom to figure it out. There was an edge there, subtle but present. Sophie caught it. It is, she said carefully, but it's also kind of terrifying. I spent my whole life doing what other people expected, and now I'm trying to figure out what I actually want. Turns out, that's harder than it sounds. Jennifer's expression softened slightly. I can imagine. Emma, oblivious to the undercurrents, chattered about school, about the snow they'd had, about how Sophie made really good cookies. Jennifer listened, asked follow-up questions, and slowly the tension started to ease. After lunch, Emma wanted to show Jennifer the bookstore down the street. While they browsed, Jennifer pulled Liam aside. She seems nice, she said. No but, I'm just surprised. She's not what I expected. What did you expect? Jennifer shrugged. I don't know. Someone more polished? Put together? She seems kind of lost. She's finding her way. And you're okay with that? With being with someone who doesn't have it all figured out? Liam laughed. Jen, I don't have it all figured out. Nobody does. You know what I mean. You've got Emma to think about. You can't afford to be with someone who might bail when things get complicated. She's not going to bail. How do you know? Because I've seen her show up over and over. When Emma had a meltdown at the grocery store. When I got called to a job at 2 a.m. and needed someone to stay with Em. When things are messy and hard and not Instagram perfect, she doesn't run. Jennifer studied him. You really love her. Yeah, I do. And Emma loves her too. She does. Jennifer sighed. Then I guess that's what matters. Just be careful, okay? You've been through enough. I'm always careful. No, you're not. You're reckless as hell when it comes to the people you love. You just hide it better than most people. She wasn't wrong. At the end of the visit, Jennifer hugged Sophie. Take care of them, she said quietly. I will, Sophie promised. In the car afterwards, Sophie let out a long breath. That was intense. You did great. She doesn't entirely trust me. She doesn't entirely trust anyone. It's not personal. It feels personal. Emma piped up from the back seat. I think Aunt Jen liked you. She smiled way more than she usually does. Did she? Sophie turned to look at Emma. Yep. Usually she's all serious and asking about vegetables. Today she only asked about vegetables once. Liam laughed. See? You passed the test. But that night, after Emma was asleep, Sophie was quiet. They were at her house. She still kept it, though she spent most nights at Liam's, and she was curled up on the couch, staring at nothing. What's wrong? Liam asked. Your sister was right to question me. I am lost. I don't have a career or a plan or anything figured out, and you're raising a kid. You need stability, not someone who's still trying to figure out who they are. Sophie, no, listen. What if I wake up in 5 years and realize I want something different? What if I resent giving up my old life? What if I'm not cut out for this? What if you are? Liam said. What if you're exactly what we need? You don't know that. Neither do you. But we're here anyway, trying to figure it out together. That's all anyone does. Sophie wiped at her eyes. I'm scared I'm going to mess this up. Me too. Every single day. Really? Really? I'm terrified I'm screwing up Emma, that I'm not enough, that one day she'll realize other kids have normal families and she got stuck with me fumbling through it. You're not fumbling. You're amazing with her. I'm doing my best, same as you. Sophie leaned into him. What if our best isn't enough? Then we'll figure that out too, but I don't think it'll come to that. Why not? Because you're here. Because you showed up for Emma when she needed you. Because you're asking these questions instead of pretending everything's fine. That's not someone who's going to mess this up. She was quiet for a long time, and when she finally spoke, her voice was small. I don't want to be like my mother. Making everything conditional, making people earn love. You're nothing like her. How do you know? Because you show up without expecting anything in return. Because you love Emma just for being Emma, not for being perfect or meeting some standard. Because you're willing to be scared and stay anyway. Sophie turned to look at him. Is that what love is? Being scared and staying anyway? Part of it, yeah. That's not very romantic. It's honest. She smiled despite herself. I guess it is. They sat in silence for a while, holding each other. Outside, rain started to fall, tapping against the windows. I'm selling this place, Sophie said suddenly. What? The house. I'm selling it. I've been holding on to it like a security blanket, like I might need to run back here if things don't work out. But that's not fair to you or Emma. If I'm in this, I need to be all in. You don't have to sell your house to prove anything. I'm not doing it to prove anything. I'm doing it because I want to. Because I want to build something new with you, not keep one foot in my old life just in case. Liam pulled back to look at her. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. What will you do with the money? Sophie thought about it. I don't know yet. Maybe invest it. Maybe go back to school for real, not just community college classes. Maybe we use some of it to buy a house together, a place that's ours. That's a big step. I'm ready for big steps. And looking at her face, determined, a little scared, but certain, Liam believed her. Mom, the sale of the house took 6 weeks. Sophie's parents called repeatedly, trying to talk her out of it, sending lawyers and financial advisors to explain why she was making a mistake. Sophie ignored them all. When the papers were finally signed, she showed up at Liam's apartment with champagne and Chinese takeout. It's done, she said, looking lighter than he'd seen her in weeks. The house is sold. I'm officially untethered. How do you feel? Free, terrified, excited, all of it. They ate dinner with Emma, who was delighted by the combination of lo mein and celebration. After she went to bed, Liam and Sophie sat on the couch with their champagne. So what now? He asked. Now we find a place. Together. Something that fits all three of us. You really want to do this? Jump in completely? I really do. What about your parents? What about them? They don't get a vote anymore. They're going to be upset. Let them be upset. I spent 26 years trying to make them happy. It never worked. So now I'm going to try making myself happy instead. She clinked her glass against his. To new beginnings. To new beginnings, Liam echoed. They started house hunting the next week, dragging Emma to open houses, arguing good-naturedly about neighborhoods and school districts and whether they needed a garage. Emma had opinions about everything, from paint colors to backyard size. It took 2 months, but they finally found it. A 3-bedroom in Northeast Portland with good bones and a backyard big enough for Emma to play in. It needed work, but that was okay. They had time. The day they got the keys, all 3 of them stood in the empty living room, and Emma asked, Is this really ours? Really ours, Sophie confirmed. All of us? All of us. Emma grinned and took off running through the house, her footsteps echoing on the hardwood floors. Sophie leaned against Liam. We did it, she said. Yeah, we did. Are you happy? She asked, the same question she'd asked him that first day, a lifetime ago. This time, he didn't hesitate. Yeah, I am. And looking around at their empty house, listening to his daughter's laughter echoing through rooms they'd filled together, feeling Sophie solid and certain beside him, Liam realized it was true. He was happy. Not perfectly, not without fear or doubt, but genuinely, messily, completely happy. And that was more than he'd ever thought he'd get. Moving into the new house was chaos incarnate. Boxes stacked in every room, furniture that didn't quite fit the spaces they'd imagined. Emma racing through hallways claiming territories like a tiny conquistador. Sophie had insisted on hiring movers for the heavy stuff, but there were still 1,000 small things that needed doing. Unpacking dishes, hanging curtains, finding places for Emma's ever-expanding collection of stuffed animals. Liam took a week off work, something he never did, and they threw themselves into making the house livable. Karen showed up on day 2 with cleaning supplies and sandwiches, taking one look at the disaster zone and rolling up her sleeves without comment. "You're not doing this alone," she said when Liam tried to protest. "I've been invested in your happiness for 7 years. I'm not stopping now." Sophie painted Emma's room the periwinkle blue Emma had picked months ago, letting her help with the bottom half of the walls, even though it meant uneven patches and drips. Emma didn't care. It was her room, in her house, and she took ownership of every imperfect brushstroke. "This is the best room ever," she declared, standing back to admire their work. "Even with the wobbly parts?" Sophie asked. "Especially with the wobbly parts. It means we made it ourselves." At night, after Emma crashed hard from the excitement and physical exhaustion, Liam and Sophie would sit on their back porch, which was really just a small deck overlooking a yard that desperately needed landscaping, and decompress. "I can't believe we actually did this," Sophie said on the 4th night, beer in hand, paint still smudged on her forearm. "Having regrets?" "Not even a little bit. You?" Liam looked back at the house. Lights on in the kitchen where they'd left boxes half unpacked, Emma's window glowing with her nightlight. Their house. The thought still felt surreal. "No regrets," he said. "My mother called again today." "What'd she want?" "To inform me that I've made a series of terrible decisions and it's not too late to correct course. Apparently she's found a lovely condo in the Pearl District that would be much more appropriate for someone of my background." "What'd you tell her?" "That I'm exactly where I want to be." Sophie took a long drink. "She hung up on me. I'm sorry. Don't be. I meant what I said. You, Emma, this house with its weird kitchen layout and that bathroom tile that looks like it's from 1987, this is what I want, not some sterile condo that would make her happy." Liam reached over, took her hand. "The bathroom tile is pretty terrible, though. We'll fix it eventually after we fix the 17 other things that are more urgent. Like the back fence that's held together with hope and rust." "Exactly like that." They sat in comfortable silence, and Liam thought about how far they'd both come. Sophie from her gilded cage, him from his carefully controlled survival mode. They'd chosen mess over safety, chosen each other over the easier paths they could have taken. The first month in the house had its rough patches. They learned each other's living habits. Sophie was messy in ways that drove Liam crazy, leaving coffee cups on every surface. Liam was rigid about routines in ways that made Sophie feel constricted. They bickered about whether dishes needed to be done immediately after dinner or could wait until morning, about how late was too late for Emma's bedtime on weekends, about whose turn it was to take out the trash, small things, domestic things, the kind of friction that came from merging lives. But they worked through it. Sophie started using coasters without being asked. Liam loosened up about the bedtime thing. They bought a chore chart and made it a game with Emma, who took to it with the enthusiasm of someone who enjoyed checking boxes. 6 weeks in, on a Saturday morning, Liam woke up to voices in the kitchen. He padded downstairs to find Sophie and Emma making pancakes, flour everywhere, Emma standing on a step stool at the stove while Sophie supervised. "Dad, we're making breakfast," Emma announced unnecessarily. "I can see that." "Sophie's teaching me to flip them. Watch." She attempted a flip that sent the pancake half onto the floor. Both of them dissolved into giggles. "Okay, maybe we need more practice," Sophie said, retrieving the pancake. "Let's try again." Liam leaned against the doorframe, watching. This was his life now. His daughter and his... What was Sophie exactly? They hadn't put labels on it beyond being together, being committed. But standing there watching them laugh over ruined pancakes, Liam knew what he wanted her to be. After breakfast, which was mostly edible despite the learning curve, Emma went to her room to play. and Liam helped Sophie clean up the disaster zone that was their kitchen. "I've been thinking," he said, scraping batter off the counter. "Dangerous. About us, about what this is." Sophie stopped wiping down the stove, turned to face him. "Okay. Emma asked me yesterday if you were going to be her stepmom someday." "What did you say?" "I said I didn't know, that it was complicated." Sophie's face fell slightly. "Right, complicated. But it's not actually complicated, I mean." Liam set down the sponge. "I love you. Emma loves you. You're already part of this family in every way that matters. The only thing we haven't done is make it official." "Official how?" He pulled a small box from his pocket. Nothing fancy, just a simple ring he'd bought 3 days ago during his lunch break, unable to shake the certainty that this was right. Sophie's eyes went wide. "I'm not good at speeches," Liam said. "And this isn't romantic or planned out, but I know I want to wake up every morning and find you making pancakes with my kid. I want to argue about dishes and fix this disaster of a house together. I want all of it, the messy, complicated, beautiful reality of building a life with you. So, Sophie Lane, will you marry me?" For a long moment, Sophie just stared at him, and Liam's heart hammered against his ribs. Maybe this was too fast. Maybe he'd misread everything. Maybe... "Yes," Sophie said, her voice cracking. "Yes, absolutely yes." She kissed him, laughing and crying at the same time, and when they broke apart, Emma was standing in the doorway. "Did you just ask Sophie to marry us?" she demanded. "I did. Is that okay with you?" Emma pretended to consider it very seriously. "Will she keep making pancakes?" "Even the ones that end up on the floor," Sophie said. "Then yes, it's okay with me." She ran over and hugged them both, and they stood there in their messy kitchen, holding each other, and Liam felt something click into place. This was his family, imperfect, unconventional, but completely his. They decided on a small wedding, just close friends and family. Liam's sister Jennifer came down from Seattle early to help with planning, and to Liam's surprise, she and Sophie actually got along. "She's good for you," Jennifer told him one evening while Sophie and Emma were out picking up dinner. "I wasn't sure at first, but she's solid, more solid than I expected." "She is. And Emma's happy. That's what matters most." "Yeah," Jennifer studied him. "You seem different. Lighter, maybe?" "I feel different. Like I can breathe for the first time in years. That's what the right person does. They make space for you to breathe." The wedding was scheduled for late June in their backyard. Sophie's idea, wanting to make it theirs rather than renting some venue. They spent weeks getting the yard ready, pulling weeds, planting flowers, building a small arbor that Liam nearly electrocuted himself wiring with string lights. Sophie's parents were invited, but declined, sending a cold note about not being able to support this union. It stung, Liam knew, but Sophie held her head high. "Their loss," she said, though he could see the hurt underneath. The day before the wedding, Sophie's father called. Liam answered by accident, not recognizing the number. "Is Sophie there?" Robert Lane's voice was formal, distant. "She's out with Emma. Can I take a message?" "This is her father." "I know who you are." A pause. "I wanted to tell her, my wife and I won't be attending tomorrow, but I wanted Sophie to know that I hope she finds what she's looking for." It wasn't an approval, not exactly, but it was something. "I'll tell her," Liam said. "And Mr. Carter, take care of my daughter. She's stronger than Patricia gives her credit for, but she's also more fragile than she lets on." "I know, and I will." When Sophie got home, Liam relayed the conversation. She cried, not dramatically, just quiet tears while she sat on their bed. "He's never stood up to my mother," she said. "Not once. But that phone call, that's as close as he'll get. Is it enough?" She wiped her eyes. "It has to be." The wedding day dawned clear and warm, one of those perfect Pacific Northwest days where the sky was impossibly blue and the air smelled like roses. Karen arrived early to help Sophie get ready, shooing Liam and Emma out of the house. They got ready at Karen's place, Liam in a simple gray suit, Emma in a blue dress she'd picked herself, complete with sneakers because fancy shoes are terrible, Dad. When they arrived back at the house, guests were already gathering, maybe 30 people total. Liam's coworkers, some of Emma's friends, and their parents, Jennifer's family. Small, intimate, perfect. And then Sophie appeared, and Liam forgot how to breathe. She wore a simple cream dress, nothing extravagant, her hair loose around her shoulders. No veil, no train, no pretense. Just Sophie, beautiful and nervous and entirely herself. Emma was her only bridesmaid, taking the role very seriously as she walked down the makeshift aisle, scattering flower petals. When she reached the arbor, she stage whispered to Liam, "She looks really pretty, Dad." "She does, kiddo." The ceremony was brief. A friend of Sophie's who'd gotten ordained online officiated, keeping it light and personal. They'd written their own vows, and when it was Liam's turn, he pulled out the crumpled paper he'd rewritten 17 times. "Sophie," he started, then stopped, looking at her instead of the paper. "I had this whole thing written out, about how you changed my life, how you made me believe in second chances, all of that. And it's true. But standing here, what I really want to say is simpler. You showed up. When things were messy, when they were hard, when it would have been easier to walk away. You showed up. You chose us. Every single day. And I promise to spend the rest of my life showing up for you the same way. Whatever comes, whatever we face it together." Sophie was crying by the time he finished, and when it was her turn, she had to take a moment to compose herself. "I spent most of my life being someone else's idea of who I should be," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "Perfect daughter, perfect student, perfect everything, and I was miserable because none of it was real. Then I met you, Liam, and you asked me if I was happy. Nobody had ever asked me that, and I couldn't answer because I didn't know what happiness looked like. But now I do. It looks like Sunday morning pancakes and paint-splattered walls, and a 6-year-old who calls me her bonus mom. It looks like choosing mess over perfection, choosing real over easy. And I choose this. I choose you. I choose Emma. I choose this beautiful, imperfect life we're building, today and every day after." There wasn't a dry eye under that arbor. When the officiant pronounced them married, Emma cheered louder than anyone, and Liam kissed his wife, while their small gathering erupted in applause. The reception was in the backyard, simple food and music from a borrowed speaker system. Emma danced with anyone who'd have her, spinning in her dress until she was dizzy. Sophie's photography professor from community college had volunteered to take pictures, capturing moments Liam knew they'd treasure. Emma mid-laugh, Sophie and Jennifer talking with their heads together, Liam dancing with his new wife while the sun set behind them. Late in the evening, after Emma had fallen asleep on Karen's lap and most of the guests had filtered out, Liam and Sophie stood in their yard surrounded by the remnants of the party. "We did it," Sophie said. "We did. How do you feel? Married, terrified, happy? You?" "Same, except maybe more terrified." "About what?" Sophie gestured around them. "All of this. What if I'm not good at being a wife? What if I mess up being a stepmom? What if—" Liam pulled her close. "Then we figure it out, together. That's the whole point. Promise?" "Promise." They swayed slightly, even though the music had stopped, and Liam thought about everything that had led to this moment. The fear, the doubt, the choice to try anyway. "Thank you," Sophie said quietly. "For what?" "For seeing me. For asking if I was happy. For giving me a reason to answer yes." The months after the wedding settled into a rhythm that felt both new and familiar. Sophie threw herself into her photography classes, started building a portfolio. She had an eye for capturing moments, candid shots of Emma playing, of Liam working on the house, of the small details that made up their life. Her professor suggested she submit to a local gallery show, and to Sophie's shock, 3 of her pieces were accepted. The opening was on a Thursday night in September, and Liam left work early to make it. Sophie was terrified, standing in the gallery surrounded by strangers looking at her work. Liam found her in a corner, gripping a glass of wine. "You okay?" he asked. "There are people looking at my photos, actual people, judging them." "They're not judging, they're appreciating." "How do you know?" "Because they're beautiful. You're talented, Sophie. Let yourself believe it." One of Sophie's photos sold that night. A shot of Emma on the swings, caught mid-flight, laughing at something out of frame. The buyer was a middle-aged woman who told Sophie it reminded her of her own daughter at that age. When they got home, Sophie was buzzing with energy and disbelief. "I sold a photograph," she kept saying. "Someone paid money for my work." They'll pay for more, Liam said. This is just the beginning. You really think so? I know so. She kissed him, hard and grateful. I couldn't have done this without you. You know that, right? You and Emma, you gave me the courage to try. You gave yourself the courage. We just showed up to watch. But Sophie shook her head. No, you did more than watch. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. That's everything. Over the following months, Sophie built something that was entirely hers. More gallery shows, a small website, commissioned work photographing families and events. It wasn't making enough money to live on yet, but it was real. It was hers. And watching her bloom into confidence, into purpose, Liam felt a fierce pride. This was what love should do. Make space for the other person to become fully themselves. Emma started second grade that fall, and with it came new challenges. She was struggling with reading, falling behind her classmates, and the frustration was spilling over into tears and tantrums. They got her tested and discovered she had dyslexia. Nothing severe, but enough to need intervention. The school set up an IEP, and Sophie researched everything she could find about learning strategies and accommodations. She spent hours working with Emma, using colored overlays and specialized techniques, never showing frustration when Emma got stuck on the same word for the 10th time. I'm stupid, Emma said one evening, throwing her book across the room. You're not stupid, Sophie said firmly. Your brain just processes things differently. That doesn't make you less smart. It makes you creative. I hate reading. I know. But we're going to figure this out together. You, me, and your dad. We're a team, remember? Emma sniffled, picked up the book. Can we try again? As many times as you need. Watching them work together, Liam felt something expand in his chest. Sophie hadn't signed up for this, for learning disabilities and IEP meetings and the grinding patience required to help a struggling kid. But she showed up anyway, every single night, without complaint. By December, Emma's reading had improved noticeably. She still struggled, but she wasn't giving up anymore. And a lot of that was because Sophie refused to let her. Thank you, Liam said one night after Emma was asleep, for helping her through this. She's my kid too, Sophie said simply. That's what you do. And hearing her say it, my kid too, Liam realized she meant it completely. Somewhere along the way, Sophie had stopped being just his partner. She'd become Emma's second parent, fully and without reservation. The holidays that year were their first as a legally recognized family. They hosted Thanksgiving, cramming Jennifer's family and Karen into their small dining room, the table so full of food there was barely room for plates. Emma said grace, something she'd learned at a friend's house and insisted on doing, and when she finished with, and thank you for my family, all of them, Sophie's hand found Liam's under the table and squeezed. Patricia and Robert Lane sent a card with a check for Emma's college fund and nothing else. Sophie tucked the check away without comment, and if she was hurt by their continued distance, she didn't show it. Christmas morning was chaos. Emma up at 5:30, dragging them both downstairs to see what Santa had brought. They'd gone overboard, Liam knew, but seeing Emma's face light up at the pile of presents made it worth every penny. Sophie had gotten Emma a camera, kid-friendly, but real enough to matter. So you can take pictures like me, Sophie explained. If you want to. Emma's eyes went wide. Really? My own camera? Really? She spent the rest of the morning photographing everything. The tree, her new toys, Liam making pancakes, Sophie laughing at something on her phone. Terrible compositions, mostly blurry, but capturing pure joy in every frame. Later, after Emma had crashed on the couch surrounded by wrapping paper, Liam gave Sophie his gift, a new camera lens she'd been eyeing for months but wouldn't buy herself. Liam, this is too much. It's not. You're building something real. You need the right tools. She cried, which she did more easily now, and kissed him. I love you so much. Love you too. That night, putting Emma to bed, she asked, Is this what it's always going to be like? What do you mean? Us. Together. Happy. Liam thought about how to answer honestly without making promises he couldn't guarantee. We're going to have hard times too, days when we argue or when things don't go right. But yeah, we'll get through them together, and there'll be a lot of good days like this one. Good, because I like this family. Me too, kiddo. Me too. Spring came, and with it, news that stopped them all cold. Jennifer called on a Tuesday evening, her voice strange. "Liam, I need to tell you something." "What's wrong?" "Mom's sick, cancer, stage 3. She didn't want to tell anyone, but it's gotten worse and she needs help." Their mother. Liam hadn't spoken to her in over a year. The relationship had always been strained, gotten worse after their father died. Worse still when Liam became a single parent, and she'd suggested he give Emma to Jennifer. "What kind of help?" he asked carefully. "She needs somewhere to stay during treatment. She can't be alone. I can't take her. Mark's job, the kids' school, everything. You want her to come here? I know it's a lot to ask, after everything. But she's our mom, Liam." He thought about all the reasons to say no. The hurt she'd caused, the judgment, the years of distance. But he also thought about Emma, about what he was teaching her about family and forgiveness. "Let me talk to Sophie," he said. When he explained the situation, Sophie didn't hesitate. "She should come here. You don't know what you're signing up for. My mother is difficult on her best days." "She's your mom. She needs help. We have space." Sophie looked at him seriously. "And maybe this is a chance to heal some things. For you, for her, for Emma to know her grandmother." "You're too good," Liam said. "I'm practical. And I believe people can change, your mother included." So Diane Carter moved into their guest room in April, frail and frightened in ways Liam had never seen her. The first week was tense, his mother making comments about the house, about Sophie's photography, about how they were raising Emma. Sophie absorbed it without reacting, and Liam tried to remember that his mother was scared and sick, and lashing out was her defense mechanism. The breakthrough came on a Saturday afternoon. Liam was at work, Emma at a friend's house, and Sophie was editing photos in the kitchen. Diane came downstairs, drawn by the smell of coffee. "What are you working on?" she asked, and for once there was no judgment in her voice. Sophie showed her, a series she was preparing for a show about family. "This one," Diane said, pointing to a shot of Liam and Emma building something in the garage. "This is good. Really good. You've captured something true." "Thank you," Sophie said, surprised. Diane sat down, poured herself coffee. "I owe you an apology. Several, actually. I judged you before I knew you. Decided you were just some rich girl playing house with my son. And now? Now I can see I was wrong. You love them, both of them, and you're building something real here." Sophie's throat tightened. "I'm trying." "You're succeeding." Diane paused. "I never understood what Liam saw in you, but watching you with Emma, with him, I get it now. You make them happy. That's not nothing." It wasn't a warm embrace, but it was honest, and it was a start. Over the following weeks, Diane softened. She helped Emma with homework, taught her to bake bread, told stories about Liam as a kid that made Emma shriek with laughter. And slowly, something healed between Liam and his mother. Not everything. There were still tense moments, still old wounds that flared up. But they talked more honestly than they had in years. One evening, sitting on the back porch while Sophie and Emma made dinner inside, Diane said, "I was wrong about a lot of things. About you being able to raise Emma alone. About Sophie. About what makes a good life. What changed your mind?" "Cancer, mostly. Facing death tends to clarify what matters." She looked at him. "You've built something beautiful here. I'm sorry I couldn't see it before." "Better late than never." "Is it? Better?" "Yeah, Mom, it is." She squeezed his hand and Liam felt another piece of his past settle into place. Diane's treatment was successful, not a cure, but remission. By summer, she was well enough to move back to her own place, though she stayed in Portland, visiting regularly. Emma loved having a grandmother, and Diane bloomed under the attention, shedding years of bitterness to become someone softer, more present. "You saved her," Sophie said one night after Diane had left from dinner. "She saved herself. You gave her the space to do it. That's the same thing." About 2 years after their wedding, on a summer evening almost identical to the one where they'd married, Liam and Sophie sat on their back porch watching Emma play with the neighbors' kids. "I've been thinking," Sophie said, "dangerous habit." "About having another kid?" Liam turned to look at her. They'd talked about it before vaguely, but never seriously. "Yeah?" "Yeah. Emma's 8 now. If we're going to do it, now's probably the time, before the gap gets too big. What does Emma think? She's campaigning hard for a little sister. Apparently brothers are gross. Liam laughed. And you? What do you want? Sophie was quiet for a moment. I want to build a family with you. However that looks. If it's just the three of us, I'm happy. If we add to it, I'm happy. I just want us to decide together. I want it, Liam said. Another kid. With you. Sophie smiled, kissed him. Okay then, let's do it. It took 6 months, but eventually Sophie's test came back positive. Emma was over the moon, already planning out how she'd teach her little sister everything important. We don't know if it's a girl yet, Liam reminded her. It's a girl. I know these things. She was right. The ultrasound at 20 weeks confirmed it. Another daughter. Sophie's pregnancy was harder than she'd expected. Morning sickness that lasted well into the second trimester. Exhaustion that made working difficult. But she pushed through, determined not to let it slow her down too much. The baby came in March, a week early but healthy. Clara Rose Carter, 7 pounds even, with Liam's dark hair and Sophie's nose. Emma met her sister in the hospital, holding her with the careful concentration of someone given a precious responsibility. She's so small, Emma whispered. You were this small once, Liam said. Really? Really? Did you love me this much when I was small? More. Every day, more. Emma looked at Clara, then at Sophie. Are you going to love her more than me? Sophie reached out, touched Emma's face. My heart doesn't divide, sweetheart. It multiplies. I have enough love for both of you, always. Promise? Promise. Bringing Clara home was an adjustment. Liam had forgotten how demanding newborns were, the sleepless nights, the constant feeding, the way everything in your life revolved around this tiny, helpless creature. But Emma stepped up, helping in small ways, fetching diapers and singing to Clara when she cried. And Sophie, despite the exhaustion, glowed with a contentment Liam had never seen before. This is what I always wanted, she said one night, rocking Clara back to sleep. A family that was mine, that I chose. You've got it. I know. Sometimes I still can't believe it's real. 6 months after Clara's birth, Sophie's first solo show opened at a gallery downtown. Her work had evolved, intimate portraits of families, candid moments that captured something essential about connection and love. The centerpiece was a series about their family. Liam fixing a light fixture with Emma watching, Clara asleep in her bassinet, all 4 of them crowded around the dinner table. Raw, honest, beautiful. The show was a success. Critics praised her eye, her ability to find grace in ordinary moments. Several pieces sold, and a local magazine commissioned a profile. Liam stood in that gallery, watching strangers admire his wife's work, and felt overwhelming pride. Sophie had come so far from that lost woman in the too big house. She'd built this, a career, a purpose, a life, through sheer determination and talent. That night, after they got home and the babysitter left, Sophie found Liam in the nursery watching Clara sleep. Penny for your thoughts? She asked. Just thinking about that first day, when you asked me if I was happy. And I am. Completely, messily, exhaustingly happy. Sophie leaned against him. Me too. Thank you for taking a chance on me. Thank you for taking a chance on us. They stood there watching their daughter sleep, and Liam thought about everything that had led to this moment. The fear, the risk, the choice to try despite every reason not to. People spent their whole lives waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect person, the perfect circumstances. But perfection was a myth. Real life was messy and complicated and full of moments where you had to choose courage over comfort. He'd chosen Sophie. She'd chosen him. They'd chosen to build something together, even when it was hard, even when they didn't know if it would work. And somehow, impossibly, it had. Not perfectly. They still fought about dishes and bedtimes and whose turn it was to handle the 3 a.m. feeding. Sophie still struggled with doubt some days. Liam still worried about money. Emma still had meltdowns. Clara was colicky and demanding. But they showed up. Every day. In small ways and big ones, they showed up for each other. And that, Liam had learned, was what love actually looked like. Not grand gestures or perfect moments, just the steady accumulation of days where you chose to stay, to try, to keep building something together. Some people never found that. Some people spent their whole lives searching for it. Liam had found it in the last place he'd expected, in a service call to fix a simple electrical problem, in a question about happiness he couldn't answer, in a woman who'd been just as lost as he was. And together, they'd found their way home. 5 years later, Emma was 13 and Clara was 5, and their lives had expanded in ways Liam never could have predicted. Sophie's photography had taken off. She was booking weddings and events, teaching classes, mentoring younger artists. Liam had finally gotten his master electrician's license and started his own small business, working saner hours and making better money. They'd renovated the house slowly over the years, fixed that terrible bathroom tile, rebuilt the back fence, added a proper deck. It wasn't fancy, but it was theirs. On a Saturday afternoon in June, almost exactly 8 years after their wedding, the whole family gathered in the backyard for Emma's 13th birthday party. Jennifer's family was there: Diane, Karen, Emma's friends from school, Clara running wild with the other little kids. Liam stood at the grill, flipping burgers, watching Sophie photograph the chaos with the ease of someone who'd made a career of capturing joy. Emma appeared at his elbow. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Sure, kiddo." "Do you remember when it was just us, before Sophie and Clara?" "I do." "Was it better or worse?" Liam thought about how to answer honestly. It wasn't better or worse. It was different. We were doing okay, just the two of us, but what we have now, this is pretty great, don't you think? Emma nodded. "Yeah, it is. I just wanted to make sure you didn't miss it. The before." "I don't miss it, but I'm grateful for it. It made us who we are." "And who are we?" "Survivors who learned how to be happy." Emma grinned. "That's pretty good, Dad." She ran off to rejoin her friends, and Sophie came over, Clara on her hip. "What was that about?" she asked. "Emma checking that I don't regret our life." "Do you?" "Not even a little bit." Sophie kissed him, and Clara made a disgusted noise. "Ew, kissing!" "You'll understand when you're older," Sophie told her. "I'll never understand. Kissing is gross." They laughed, and Liam took Clara so Sophie could grab her camera for more pictures. He stood there holding his youngest daughter, watching his eldest laugh with her friends, his wife doing what she loved, and felt the kind of contentment that came from building something slowly, intentionally, with love. This was it. This was the life they'd fought for, chosen, built together, messy and imperfect and absolutely real. And standing in his backyard, surrounded by everyone who mattered, Liam realized something important. Happiness wasn't something you waited for. It was something you created, day by day, choice by choice. It was asking the hard questions and sitting with uncomfortable answers. It was showing up even when you were scared. It was believing people could change, could grow, could become more than their circumstances suggested. It was choosing love over fear, mess over perfection, honesty over ease. Sophie had taught him that, and in teaching him, she'd saved them both. Not from anything dramatic or terrible, but from the quiet desperation of lives half-lived, from the safety of never taking risks, from the loneliness of going through the motions. They'd saved each other. And in doing so, they'd built something worth saving. A family, a home, a life. And that, Liam thought, watching the sun set over his backyard while his daughters played and his wife laughed, was more than enough. It was everything.